both of our kids were asked, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they were both like, we want to do real estate. Like, we want to do this. And so when we go to a lot of these meetups, the kids are coming with us. They're in the rooms and they're not just like sitting there playing their games, although they do a little bit, but they're also like listening, because after we'll take a break. I'm like, okay, what was your biggest takeaway? And then you listen and oh my gosh. So if you're a parent and you're watching and listening right now, doesn't matter. Like, get your kids involved as soon as possible. Kids are smart. They will learn anything that you teach them. They're highly intelligent. Like, kids are awesome. And so the more you can pour into your kids, the more that you're going to see those benefits as they get older. So our kids at 13 and 11, like, this is their dream and goal, and they're living it now, because you ask my son, he's like, I don't have to wait. Like, I'm doing this now. So like, I am an investor.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Pete Podcast, where we talk about REI, tech, trends, and just anything else real estate investing. My guest today closed their first deal together back in 2008 as a junker house in upstate New York, but today they close deals without using a bank, a down payment, or even their own credit. Jenn and Joe Delle Fave are creators of the Creative Finance Playbook and two of the sharpest voices in subject to seller finance and lease options. They left their W-2s, moved to Florida, run the whole business virtually, and now teach other investors to do the same while homeschooling their kids. If you're tired of finding banks and chasing rates, you're going to want to lean in. Jenn and Joe, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having us on.
Yeah, super excited.
So I gave a little bit of an intro there, but that always leaves out a lot of details. So when somebody asks, who are Jenn and Joe, what do y'all say?
Well, I'm married, so I'm a husband, right? We're parents. We've got kids. We own multiple businesses, and we had a dream. That's what it is. We were dreamers. We had a dream that one day, when I met her in 2008, the goal was like, wouldn't it be great if she didn't have to be a school teacher? I didn't have to work at a car dealership for the rest of our lives, and we could travel and buy real estate and all of this stuff, and move to Florida. That was like the big dream, but it never seemed like it could happen. Then it did. So I would say we're dreamers.
Awesome. I love that. My wife is a dreamer. She's a big dreamer. I have dreams, but my dreams tend to be smaller. I've learned, I used to think they were big. They're smaller. She has the big dreams and then helps push me. So that's awesome. So car dealership, just going to jump in that. That was probably really long hours. Can you imagine doing that now with the kids?
Well, I was in the beginning. I was in the finance office, so my job meant I had to get there early, and I was usually the last one there. So these days were 12, 13, 14 hours. I would leave, for work in the morning. The kids were still in bed, and then I would get home, and they're back in bed because they were small. And to me, the money was okay, right? But the lifestyle was just terrible. I wasn't seeing my wife. I wasn't seeing my kids.
You weren't taking care of your health.
I wasn't even you're eating a piece of pizza at your desk as you're typing, right? Like, that was no lifestyle. But once again, I grew up broke. I grew up so broke. It was crazy. So the fact that I even had this kind of job making, the kind of money I was a dream come true. But then, when you're a single guy, it's not that big of a deal. But once you start meeting the girl of your dreams and you want to spend time with her, or him for some other folks, and then you get married and have kids, like, that's what's important. It's about family.
Amen. Amen. And something that a lot of people in real estate focus on is the grind, and they really emphasize the grind. Well, the grind is what you were doing before.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, you don't want to grind. You want to get out of that. And grinding is a season. There's times that we all have to grind. But yeah, I feel you. And Jenn, you were a school teacher?
I was, yeah. So, I did all the right things. My parents said, you must go to school. I was, millennial. So 1999, off to college I went and got my 4-year degree at a state college, got a teaching job right off the bat. I made $29,000 my first year teaching in 2003, which is wild after you get into real estate, and that could be like one deal. But then I go into debt, getting my master's degree. I own my own house, but like looking back, I'm like, what the heck? Like, how is this the system, that we're setting people up to literally fail in, without, any true financial education or, other opportunities out there, or, just kind of like go to school, then you'll eventually make it up and you'll have great health care and get a bell and retire. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's what I signed up for. But then I meet him. And, he was definitely the dreamer. I was more of the, like, black and white, like wealth is for other people. And he's like, no, we could do this. Right. And so it took a little bit more on my part to really see the vision, and more on him part of just taking that action and me trusting the process. But yeah, as a teacher, it just nuts, like I loved the kids. I didn't like the politics, and I certainly didn't love all of the work that I was doing for peanuts. Grading English papers all night long is a lot of work if you've ever done it.
Oh, I could only imagine. And teachers that I've known and talked to, I say similar things. They love the kids, didn't like the politics. And unfortunately, in today's society, I'm not going to try to take us way off track. Parents are a huge headache and not an advocate for their kids like they should be, in my opinion. So very, very, very tough job, I'm sure. No doubt there. So when did y'all make the leap to leave those W-2 jobs and go full time? Was it together at the same time or separate?
It was separate. We got married in 2010. We had a couple of properties, and it was more that his job was making decent money. And he said, you don't have to go back. So I was actually a stay-at-home wife for a couple of months before we ended up having our first child, and then it became stay-at-home mom. And then we kept buying rental properties. And so I left first, and again, it was kind of like his thing at first with the rentals. I didn't really understand the vision. And then one day I realized how much I was needed because of all of the tax bills, unbeknownst to me, got sent to one of our rental properties, and I didn't pay them. And there was like a lien or something. And so he's like, what happened? I'm like, I don't know. And so I was like, wow, this is actually a big deal. This is, something that's growing here, and let me take it more seriously. Just because I didn't quite get all of the big picture, but I did that day with a 6-month-old. And how old was our daughter? Like two and
years.
2.5. And so I was like, okay, like I'm diving all in here. And then when we realized, I think it was around that time too, that the banks were going to cut us off at 10 mortgages, and we were hovering around 5 or 6. We're like, well, we need another plan. Like, this is not going to work if we want to get you out next. And that's where we discovered Creative. And so 2016, 17, all the way through 2020, we ended up doubling our portfolio. I went all in. So stay-at-home mom, taking care of the house, running everything, plus now looking for rent-to-own tenants and, talking to sellers. It was a wild couple of years there. But in 2020, Joe was able to walk away from his full-time job.
Yeah, it was like 5 days before COVID happened. I just got a humongous raise with my job. The owner, my dealership takes me out, said, hey, you're going to be head of finance. We're going to buy this 12 new locations. And then he's like, you're not leaving to start like a marshmallow factory, are you? And I was like, marshmallow factory? I think he saw that we were buying real estate online.
We were posting on Facebook.
And so he kind of made that comment. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm going to be working here for a long time. And then 5 days later, March 12th happens, COVID. Just I started unrolled. They started closing down the dealership, sending people home. And so that was the last day I worked, was March 12th, 2020. And when we were home, many of us remember the whole flatten the curve, stuff that they were feeding then. So we knew that we were going to be out of work where I was, at least for a few months. And so Jenn and I, for the first week, I was like playing like Call of Duty and Madden. Like I was just goofing
He's like,
off.
I'm going to go back to work. I was like, no, you're not. This is it.
And then what happened was it was like end of March. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're going to do this full time and we're not going to go back. And so we just started marketing hard. The beginning of a global pandemic, we start marketing and we started doing deals. And we went from doing one deal a year to doing a deal every month. I mean, right at the very beginning. And then it just kind of started spiraling. And then we started getting to 2-3 deals a month. And then like we were off to the races.
Just kind of get rolling in a time that at that moment, even in real estate, people were thinking it's going to be doom and gloom. Everything's going to crash. The industry is going to go. I remember people freaking out, understandably, because we didn't know it was going to happen. But it was in that uncertainty that you said, nope, we're going to do this. We're going to double down and we're going to rock it. That's cool. I like that.
Well, I feel like when a lot of things are uncertain are when some of the biggest and best opportunities are always had, right? I mean, all of those properties that we started buying back then versus what they're worth now, just 6 years later, have made us like multi-millions just from buying those properties and holding them since then. They've all doubled, or if not more, in value from just one deal at a time, right?
And we had just started online marketing. So, in between there, I like learned like such a love for social media. I I did do, I sold some vitamins and jewelry, little part-time things. And he was like, if you focus that energy on houses, I could probably walk away from my job a little quicker. And I was like, oh, valid point. And then we heard about this one program where a gentleman was going to offer coaching on how to talk to sellers via Facebook. And I'm like, well, sign me up. If I just have to post and message some sellers, I'm like, this is awesome. And we literally just signed up with his program. And then COVID happened. And I remember talking to him like, hey, I don't know what's going to happen. Joe just, doesn't have his job anymore. This is crazy. Should we stop? And he's like, absolutely not. He's like, maybe turn the ad spend down. He's like, but now is the time. Like, if you guys seriously want this is your opportunity. And I just think back, I get goosebumps thinking about it. Because if I didn't have him like as a mentor, like pouring into us, because it can be really scary. But if other people are doing it, like, that you can too. And so just being around those voices of like reason, even though it sounds crazy, because they've done it too. I don't know. I just always think about that moment because it was wild. Like there was a couple moments of hesitation. It wasn't like, you know, confetti from the ceilings and all of that right away. Like it was a little nerve wracking. We cut all expenses. There were obviously no date nights or anything extravagant. And we just started reading all of the books, taking the messy, massive action, and just talking to a ton of homeowners about their houses.
The key there being y'all did it as a team. Reading between the lines, you did it as a team.
Mhm.
And that's something that a lot of people struggle with partnerships. And obviously being a husband and wife deal, just like my wife and I are, that's a whole other level to a partnership. But also taking a massive action.
I'm not laughing. I'm smiling. I'm agreeing with John. You do have your lanes and you learn what they are and you stick to the lanes and what they're not. Right. And so
That's the biggest one.
yeah, because in the beginning, I'm like, hey, we just got a deal. I need you to get out a purchase and sale agreement and write up the agreement. And she was like, oh, heck no. Like, you've always been doing that. That's your thing. So she laid down that boundary, right?
It's like the one boundary I laid.
That's the only one. Everything else I got her into. But I think it's really that is when you work with your spouse, like you get married, you love each other, especially if you really love each other. You want to spend time together, and I think that's important. If you could build something together, there's no better person to be part of your mastermind than your spouse, right? Because you're going to have different backgrounds and opinions and skills. And when you could blend that together and you're both rowing in the same direction,
play for the same team.
it's fantastic.
Agreed, 100%. So how do y'all handle those times when you are looking at a challenge of some kind? It doesn't have to be a huge challenge, but you have differing opinions. How do y'all resolve those and come to a decision?
We arm wrestle. I'm just kidding.
Well, I think a lot of it, I go back to a coach or mentor, right? Like it might be a question where we're like, so we bring it to that third person who I always call it like the forest through the trees. So we're in it. It's hard to see things. And so the other person can kind of shed light. But then I also just learned like he's very knowledgeable and like knows so much in certain areas that I just don't have time to fathom. And I also like focus on things that he's just like make sure it's handled. And it did take a little bumping of heads. Like I cried on seller calls, realizing that's not my strength or superpower. I don't love that, but he could talk all day long with these people. And then I'm really organized and I don't mind, doing all the back end stuff. And he doesn't really like that part.
So I would make a deal, talk to a seller, write up the agreement. Then after it's signed, I'm like, okay, we're buying a property. And now all the other stuff that has to go along with buying it, getting the insurance and filing attorneys for closings and all the other stuff. Like I'm already on to the next one, right? I'm already looking at my next deal. So like the fact that we could have this relationship and communication with each other is key.
Yeah, I would say that's still the most, like, it's harder for me to bring a team member on and then just train and delegate properly because we were doing so much of it ourselves. So that's still a work in progress. I'm always trying to become 1% better every day of properly delegating and letting go and allowing others to do their best job because I'm a bit of a control freak.
Oh, I completely understand that. I am the same way. It is a daily challenge at times. So what's your team look like now?
We love to say small but mighty. And so we have a couple of virtual assistants. I have a awesome executive assistant who helps us both in coaching and in the real estate business, kind of just teeters, which needs more of her attention or ours. Varies by the hour, it seems.
We recruited our old babysitter to be acquisitions. She just moved to Florida. She was 23, the nicest, bubbliest, like friendliest person you'd ever meet. And so after she babysat the kids the one time, she's watched them since then, but the kids loved her and she was like 10 out of 10. And so when we're talking, I'm like, what are you doing now for your like job? And she's like, I'm still looking for my big girl job. I'm like, well, good news, we're hiring. What do you know about real estate? And she's like, I know there's houses. I mean, she didn't know what a mortgage was. She didn't know what Zillow was. I had to spell it for her the first day on the job. Um, but she was a quick learner. She was willing to keep a good attitude
Great attitude.
and willing to implement and just take the small little action steps. And before you knew it, she's talking to sellers, she's following the scripts, she's locking up deals. I taught her how to do the agreements so then she could do all that. And she turned, I mean, absolutely amazing. Now she's been on our team for almost 4 years, complete rock star. And she's even helping out inside of our coaching group with some of our clients is like success, helping them. And, the person who calls our leads, like she'll call their leads for them too. So, um, really growing it small and just one step at a time. And I don't want a big bloated team. I don't need to do 50 deals a month and bang my chest. Like if we can make some really good money, help some people out and live a good, healthy lifestyle without, me going back to working 14 hours a day. That was the goal.
Yeah, and we do have help with the dispo side too. So we always have someone helping show the rent to own properties. Everything's all virtual, so they just hop on a FaceTime and show the properties to people that have money.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. And I really like how you've heard this as well, but always be recruiting. And that sounds like basically that same thing. It just, there was an opportunity and it presented itself. But too often, in my opinion, people look for employees or team members that already have experience in whatever they're going to do. And there's some credence to that. But at the same time, if you find somebody who has the right aptitude and the right skill set and the right mindset to learn, if you can teach them in your way, like you did with her, that's a win for everybody. And I bet that helps your students since she can say, honestly, I had no clue what any of this was, but I've followed this playbook. I've followed what they've said, and we are doing this, this, and this. So that's awesome. That's kudos to y'all for taking a leap on somebody. Maybe I shouldn't say leap, but betting on somebody that didn't have direct experience.
Well, we've already had interns. When we went full time, we brought on interns. That same coach that Jen mentioned earlier said, "You guys, if you're going to go full time, you can't do it all yourself. You got to bring in some help." So I put a post on Facebook. We had a 19-year-old pizza delivery guy reach out to us and a 22-year-old bartender, and these were the guys I was showing them what to do. I was training them, and then that's what helped us do a deal every month, and then 2 and 3 and 4. So I knew we could train people even with little to no experience. Lexi was the least experienced because I had to literally spell Zillow for her because she didn't know what it even was. She never heard of that site before. Uh, but once again, everything we do is simple. It just takes some time and it takes effort. That's what it really takes. It's not overly complicated, but you got to put in the action and the effort. And the hardest thing with people say is like, the seller told me no. I'm like, great. You're one step closer to yes. Like, just keep going. And so many times, like, they just want to put the car in park and sit there and cry. And I'm like, nope, you just slow down and speed right up again. And so having the right mental attitude, if you have a good attitude and you're willing to take action, like I could teach my dog to do this.
Nice. Yeah. And we say something in our office here because we still flip and hold in addition to my software. We say every no gets you closer to more yeses because not only is it your first step on getting to that yes, but averages prevail. And if you're going through a slump, if you're going through a rough time where you're getting no after no after no, it's easy to get kind of feel beat down. But Bunky just tells himself what I've told him, I don't know how many hundreds of times, every no gets you closer to a yes. And so he knows eventually he's going to get several contracts in a row, and it's just the way it's going to fall through.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's such a disservice with some of the highlight reels on social media. It just makes it look like it's so easy. And so you really want to be transparent with people. Like, it's going to take time. It's not overnight, but, you know, there's a lot of money you can make and you can help a lot of people, but you just got to stay the course. And that's where I think, well, people just give up because it is a little bit extra of a hustle and grind, like you said, for a season.
Yep. And it's a season, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they have to be prepared for it. So that's awesome. So your community, it's virtual, I assume, or is it in person, or is it kind of a hybrid?
We are virtual, but we this year felt, or literally a year ago, we started doing some in-person stuff too. It just felt like people want to see each other and the connection, the aha moments that happen when you're in a room physically, it's just amazing. So we do a little bit of both, but we meet daily on Zoom calls and there's a whole bunch of stuff, virtual, but yeah, a little bit of both.
Nice. And nice thing about virtual is you're able to like go all over the place. We were talking before we started recording. Y'all have been all over the state of Florida in the last month or so. You're not stuck and tied down to one place, which gives your kids a little bit more eye opening into what you do and the freedom that you have because you homeschool them. They're able to go with you to these things, get these experiences that 99.9% of kids don't have the opportunity to do.
Well, and I think the neat thing is yesterday they had their evaluation with the state because we homeschool,
Mm-hmm.
and both of our kids were asked, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they were both like, we want to do real estate. Like, we want to do this. And so when we go to a lot of these meetups, the kids are coming with us. They're in the rooms and they're not just like sitting there playing their games, although they do a little bit, but they're also like listening because after we'll take a break. I'm like, okay, what was your biggest takeaway? And then you listen and oh my gosh. So if you're a parent and you're watching and listening right now, doesn't matter. Like get your kids involved as soon as possible. Kids are smart. They will learn anything that you teach them. They're highly intelligent. Like kids are awesome. And so the more you can pour into your kids, the more that you're going to see those benefits as they get older. So our kids at 13 and 11, like this is their dream and goal and they're living it now because you ask my son, he's like, I don't have to wait. Like I'm doing this now. So like I am an investor.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
good stuff.
they see the value. Like they can't, I'm like, we're stopping and explaining things along the way. They've been coming to the rental properties since I was pregnant with them. So it's nothing new, but they see like, okay, like we can travel, we can go places, we're helping people. But they're like, if they want to do other things too, like you don't have to just do real estate, but it's also like a great way to build that wealth. And so just like letting them explore other options too, instead of like the law I felt like was like you have to go to college, you have to get a a good paid job, even though teaching is whatever. But it's just like being a little more open minded and not pushing. Like college might not be the answer for everybody, and if at this rate, like if it's not a degree that you really need, it's just why go waste that time and money and all the things. So
Yep. Agreed. So something you just briefly went over there is helping people. And I know that that's important to y'all. It's not just about making money and growing your portfolio. It's about helping people. Um, and we have all kinds of listeners on the Pete podcast. We have newbies, we have experienced people. For those who are new, how is it that you're helping people? There's
yeah.
multiple ways.
Well, I think that was the biggest thing for me because again, I had a little bit of a misconception in my head that investors were greedy and, big finances, they own everything. That's just like weird stories that we're told or whatever's handed down. And then once you get into the trenches, for me, it was hearing the actual seller stories, getting on the phone and listening to why they needed to sell. Most of the time, it's not because they want to. Life happens. And so when you start unpacking, like these are humans. And so I do get kind of frustrated when the people are, just focused on door count and number of units and all of that. Like takes away, I don't, for me, like you got to dial back to like, what are you even doing? And so we've helped so many sellers out in so many situations. I guess one off the top of my head that sticks with me is Derek, a family. He was a dad, a husband. He got transferred job from Florida to Texas, and he was already in Texas and needed to get his family moved quickly, and didn't have time to list it. Didn't have time to take some stuff out of the house, and literally was like, "Where do I sign? Let me hit the easy button." And like having that great relationship with him to be able to help him and his family like reunite. Because I can't imagine Joe being in Texas, me here, stressed out, trying to figure out all of that. I have listed traditionally and it works when it works, but like, man, in situations like that, I mean, we could just go on and on.
Well, and I think the key for us is how we're structuring the deals is how we're helping people too, because don't get me wrong, I buy some fixer uppers. We do flip, we do wholesale some of the properties. But when we talk about doing creative finance, like what does that even mean? We're able to buy really nice houses that don't need any contractors that I could buy on terms, rather I'm buying it with seller financing or subject to or any of those other methods. And so I don't have to give somebody a low offer. I could actually pay full price if I'm able to get good terms. One we just closed on is in Northport, Sarasota area. The guy bought it, lived in it for only a handful of months, and his job took him back to California. So he's now an accidental landlord. He's renting out the house. And when he reached out to me, he's like, hey, I don't know if you'd be open to doing this with seller financing. I see you talking about this a lot on your Facebook. I'm open to it. He's like, I have a 3.25 interest rate. So we bought a turnkey house in Florida with no money down because he didn't need a down payment. I just bought it for what he owed on it.
Mm-hmm.
And we took over his payments without going to the banks, without doing any of those things, with a 3.25 interest rate, with a super ultra low payment, We paid a few thousand in closing costs, and we own this house with a 3.25 rate. And then I did the math. If we paid the 6.5, which are the rates right now, roughly, we saved over $200,000. It was like $210,000 in finance charges. So that's a deal where every investor who, before I knew how to do this, they would say, I can't help you, go list it with an agent. But he didn't have a lot of equity. If he did list it with an agent, he didn't want to, but he'd had to write a big check. And here I am able to take over a deal, get a smoking good deal on it. And so he's walking away feeling like he just won the lotto with us. I'm walking away like, oh my gosh, we got some great terms. Same thing with Derek's house. Like he's got a 4% rate. We did have to give him a little bit of cash down in that scenario to help the family move to Texas. So we like reunited the family. So
Not 20%.
it was a couple grand. But like when we're able to do these deals, when we buy it, we also offer it not just as a typical rental, but we do a lease with the option to buy.
Yeah.
So what we do is we work with renters who are going to buy the house down the road. And we've helped turn more renters into homeowners than just about anybody I know.
Nice.
Because they move in, they could treat it like home. And then down the road, when they're able to qualify, they're able to buy it. And so when you're helping humans on that level, to me, it's great. And don't get me wrong, the money's fantastic because on those deals that we buy that way, we actually make more money on those deals than we do on any fix and flip we've ever done because those deals are paying well over 6 figures.
Wow, over 6 figures.
Yeah, like well over 2. So that's
Very nice.
of how to like sleep good at night, help people, make good money. And to me, that's just been the ultimate. So this is what I love to do. I feel like I'm the luckiest guy. I get to do it with her every day. And we're living in Florida. So like we'll do this podcast. I think we got one more in the afternoon and like we're done for the day.
Nice. This is great stuff. I love hearing about the stuff y'all are doing and the stuff y'all have done and the way y'all approach it. Because we're in the same rooms. We see a lot of people who showboat and like to thump their chest. And I got caught up in that 5-6 years ago and tried building a big team, and I hated coming to work every day. So we've done the same. We've shrunk quite a bit, and we do a good amount, not a ton, but a good amount. We make more money now than when we were doing 20, 25 deals a month because that was a lot of work, and it was a grind just to get anything. But anyways, before we sign off, I have a question for y'all, and I did cheat a little bit, but if you had if somebody gave you $100 million to live in a book for a year, what book would it be? I scroll through Facebook fast, but that actually made me stop.
That's a good one. I should have an answer ready.
I said The Great Gatsby, but then Jen tells me the guy dies at the end. So I'm like, that's not good. But the party looks fantastic. So like,
you would live it up while you live, right? Well, I would not want to be Daisy Buchanan because she was with the jerk, but I'm a sucker for Jane Austen. She was my favorite author. So give me Pride and Prejudice or Emma or any one of those, and yeah, definitely.
Nice.
English.
How about for you?
Oh, for me, I don't know. I mainly when I read it's business books or real estate books now, so I don't get into fiction. My wife, she's on pace to read 100 books this year. She could name I don't know how many. When I saw that, it made me stop and I started to comment, but I was like, I don't know what book I would want to be in.
Someone said Think and Grow Rich, and I'm like, that would be kind of cool. Be Napoleon Hill and interview everybody.
That would be pretty awesome too.
That would be. So awesome. Jen and Joe, thank you for joining us. If somebody is interested in reaching out to y'all or just kind of following y'all, what's the best way to do that?
Well, I love Instagram, so come hang out with me, Jenn Delle Fave, JennDellefave. I post real-time stories and things that are happening behind the scenes, and then also like how to do what we're talking about here is we're living it.
I do post on social media, so Joseph Delle Fave on Facebook is where I'm most active. But if you've got one of these situations or a deal, you could just simply call or text me anytime, right on my Facebook page. My phone number is out there because I love doing deals. I'm a deal maker. 585-207-2240 is my cell phone. If you text me or call me, and you have me answer, don't be surprised because I will. And if you call me late, I will call you back super early.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And everybody, we'll see you next week.
Thank you.